After a couple of seasons of waiting, it's finally time once again to see the best drivers from 11 different classes of Precision Racing League action meeting in the same cars on the same tracks at the same time. And this time, we've got some new toys to play with. The rain has finally started to fall in iRacing, so of course we had to get our drivers a little bit wet, and the Indy car is back in full force in 2024 as well, just in time for this, the second running of the PRL All-Star Invitational. My name is Joey Tebben. Joining me on commentary and on production duty is Arjuna Kankapati. And Arjuna, you know how excited I was to bring this event back, and now it's finally time to see about 35 or so of the Precision Racing League's best drivers in the same cars, in the same track, at the same time. I'm going to say that many times tonight.
Should be interesting as well, given that, you know, we have the two different disciplines on display. I think the road course car may be a little bit more of an equal playing field than the Indy car at speed, so should be interesting given that the rain might be the great equalizer.
And you might notice on track, it's a little bit drier than it was in practice. Maybe that's deliberate, maybe a little bit of track evolution. We'll get into that in a moment. But 81 drivers were eligible for this event, from race winners in 2023 Season 4, the previous season, and the season after that, 2024 Season 1 that we just finished with. There were also a few drivers from 2023 Season 3 who were invited, and a provisional, the Painters Provisional, some call it a Losers Provisional. Jeff Evans, somehow with 2 whole seasons to win a race, actually 3 seasons now to win a race, he still wasn't able to. He painted 162 cars for us though, so we determined, it's probably worth it. He probably gets an invite just for that. But there are 2 races, the GR86 at Phoenix Road in the rain, such a big unknown, 20 minutes of time in the full wet. That's going to be very exciting. And as I mentioned, the Indy car is back, and we're going to take it to a place it's never been before in the PRL. It's never been anywhere in the PRL for that matter, but the Indy car at Indianapolis, combining that just a couple of weeks early before the month of May, 30 laps of racing. And that's also an interesting number. Fuel stints, if you're at full rich in an Indy car around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, about 29 laps. There's going to be some fuel saving. There's going to be some strategy. It's going to be very, very exciting. But before we can take you into the action, as always, we have to thank the people who make all of this possible, and that starts with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. RaceBox Sim Racing offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceBoxSimRacing.com and also get a 5% discount, also using the Precision5 coupon code. This coverage is also brought to you by The Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with The Butt Kicker. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And finally, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. Not going to need much of that today, though. We've got the best of the best here in the PRL. 11 different classes of drivers eligible for this event. The best of the best are here. Defending champion Kevin Sandiego is here. And the drivers taken to the track right now. Pretty dry conditions. Is it time for the slicks in the GR86s? It might just be in qualifying.
No, unfortunately they're still all on the wet tire, so sorry to dash your hopes instantly there. You can see a little bit of the puffs of moisture that they're kicking up right now, but like you mentioned, track evolution and evolution going to be something that these drivers are all having to figure out, right? Relatively short time for them to figure out how the rain itself works when it's at full bore, and now they've got to try and figure out how it works when it's all confused. Our track's quite confused from up above, though. It's disappeared in its back half.
It's almost like we orchestrated this, though, Arjuna. It's almost like we got to play God a little bit when setting up this session. We got to make the weather a little bit funky, throw the drivers for a loop a little bit, and that's exactly what's happening here. But it looks pretty dry to me, Arjuna. I know that when you're behind the wheel of the car, it does feel a little bit slicker, but it is looking pretty dry, and I do wonder, is anybody going to go for those slicks before the final 6 minutes of this session are up?
It does seem a bit split in that I think a handful of the drivers maybe have gone on to the dries, but Michael Diaz to the line, first of those with the wets, and he might have bailed to go and put some dries on. 10 minutes on the clock means with lap times at 1:07, and now Trent Dinkle popping his way to number 1, and up the inside of Arnaud Genet bullying his way on through. You have the time to try and use both tire and see what's faster, so wouldn't be surprised if drivers just trying to figure it out on the fly.
And practice was fully wet. It was a torrential downpour. It just cleared up in time for qualifying here, and I don't think it should be too much of a surprise that by the end of the qualifying session, it's looking like a deluge of rain is going to come back out for a wet race. But that's what this weather system on iRacing is all about. Adding unpredictability, adding a little bit of an extra thing that you have to deal with that you wouldn't normally have to deal with in a race like this. We ride on board with Trent Dinkle here, champion of the PRL Cup Series for the last 2 seasons in a row. You might not think of him as a favorite in a road course race of sorts, but he's got plenty of road course skills. Back in the Cup Series, he was beating Abner Acosta at his own game at the end of their run as teammates, and he's doing a great job so far, putting a big time up against a guy like Dalton Zavadil, Carl Modoff, Kevin Sandiego, Sean Campbell. Those are all road course drivers.
Yeah, but I think as well something to think about here is how much draft is being used, because these cars, draft is powerful, but tight and twisty infield section, you need to use it at the right time as Dinkle just runs that little bit wide through the opening corner, trying to V it back in and slide it back into line. See behind the likes of Sean Campbell, for example, he's almost getting a push from Hudson. Chris Hudson in that 43 on his run to the line as he does not improve and sets himself up for a big dive up the inside. Look at how tight he takes that first corner.
It's almost like he's sort of a pro at this kind of thing. It's almost like Sean Campbell does this thing quite a lot. He was the champion of the LMP3 GT4 Challenge in the LMP3 class a couple of seasons ago, back in 2023 Season 3, and he's Sean Campbell. He's up to race anything. Very glad he could make it back. He gets very much checked up, though, by one of the NASCAR Cup Series entrants in the hairpin. He's going to have to bail and go for another lap. You'll notice that all the cars painted different colors. That is assigned to the series they raced in. So Andrew Sharp here, he's in the red for the PRL Truck Series, for example. But Carl Modoff, who just went to P1, he's in a dark blue for the PRL GT3 Sprint Series. Michael Diaz, lone representative of the GTP class in that all-black Batmobile-looking thing.
So we do have some similar colors, which I guess we have to try and pick them apart from in the running. That's the 31 of Patrick Cowgill, who heads off to turn 1 now. I think a lot of these drivers, that, for example, come from the oval side of things will be here and just hoping to survive the first race. And we do qualify for the second race, so, they'll be hoping to try and dial their oval, senses to the max and really sling it around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which for qualifying is a nervy ride.
And this is a 2-race total point affair. It evens out the playing field because there are road course drivers, there are oval drivers, there's a road course race, there's an oval race. How else can you crown a champion but adding both of those points together? And that's exactly what we're going to do. Riding on board with Sean Campbell here. Brett Adams broadside across the track. I don't think Sean expected an extra chicane there.
I think that's now 2 laps in a row that poor Sean has had unfortunately ruined through no fault of his own. And this is the danger of the open qualifying with 3 minutes left. Now, are my eyes deceiving me, or are those moisture pickups starting to drop off in a lot of cases? So still waiting for the rain to run its havoc. I think the top 18 so far have all set their times on the dry tire.
Yeah, if you look at the time set in practice, it was about 6 seconds slower than the times that are being run right now. So there you go. New graphic and all dries. There's many drivers on the wets down in the bottom, but I imagine they're probably going to be looking at this, seeing the times that people are setting on dries, and probably hoping to set at least one dry lap time before the session's up.
Yeah, and because it's open qualifying session, you'd think, oh, you can finish the lap that you're on. Nope, it's a heat session. As soon as the clock strikes 0, that's it. Qualifying is done and dusted, I think, right? So we should be done, or no? Am I confused?
No, you'll get the 1 lap once the clock runs out.
But this is not proper heat racing.
Yeah, but with only 2 minutes to go, you still got to get out there. And I'm very happy to see Carl Modoff here, by the way, a very late entrant. Literally sent me a message looking for the league invite half an hour before tonight, and he's already up on top. That shows you the caliber of Carl Modoff. Many times a champion in GT3 in the PRL. He's got more wins than anybody in a GT3 car in the PRL, for that matter. And he is doing a very good job. After he couldn't make the 2023 Season 3 event, he got a re-invite, and he's showing he absolutely deserved that. Speaking of people who deserved an invite, If Graham Wildman didn't even win a race, he would probably deserve an invite because of the sheer amount of views his family and friends give us on Monday nights. But now he gets to be here legitimately as a race winner, 2 times a race winner, I should say. Won 1 race in GT4 in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, I think the fans were waiting for the Graham cam, and so now they'll get their chance. He's in 7th, and he'll be hoping that he can survive what I think is going to be a rather hectic race start for these drivers, qualifying one thing, racing another, and with just 20 minutes or so to go racing and get it sorted out on track. We're talking about what, probably 17 laps, which sounds like, you know, not that much, but 17 laps around here. There's not much chance to really breathe. I mean, we just watched through this infield. It's tight, it's twisty, and if you are side by side, it's not an easy track to say the least.
And also, we can't forget that Graham Wildman has actually participated in the PRL All-Star Invitational before. He was one of the LCQ transferees last time out, but now he's here totally legitimately. A guy who's never qualified for one of these events legitimately is Mr. Jeff Evans, and we've fittingly given him the 00, because that's how many wins he has, and we gave him the most disgusting brownish green we possibly could to make him look like even more of a loser.
Now, did you specifically give the purple to Ted Lowendick, or did that just work out like that?
That's just luck, because he won in the Grand National Series, which was actually kind of a surprise. He didn't win in one of his, fortes in a GT3 car or a GT4 car. He won in a Grand National car, in an Xfinity car at Rockingham, of all places. That's how he qualified for this.
Yeah, well, I just had to ask because, purple, it seems quite fitting. Now, Dalton Zavadil's doing a drift. That's definitely not going to be improvement in time. Now, Sean Campbell's still got a chance to try and get his way to the top, but at least as it stands, checkered flag out in the session, and I don't think that anyone else is really going to be worrying Modoff, and now Campbell's going to run his way to the wall. I think Modoff's got pole, and on short notice, not a bad effort.
Fantastic stuff. Qualifying's not gone well for Sean Campbell. And also, I've just noticed in the session, with about 10 seconds to go in qualifying, James O'Brien has joined the session, and I believe he will be racing with us. That'll be interesting to see how he does with 0 practice. Bruno Mello crosses the line, winner from the Cup Series. He'll be starting at the back of the field, but you can see how dark it's getting, Arjuna. It is foggy, and it is starting to get a little bit more wet. I can tell some rain's coming in only a couple of moments before we get to the grid. Yeah,
and the great thing is, as well, is, with the... I say great thing. Great thing for us, maybe not so great for the drivers. There's not much visibility in the spray. iRacing said they're going to be slightly working to tweak the way that the brake lights show up in that spray, so it's a little bit easier to pick out where it's going. But if you're behind a whole bunch of cars, and even in these GR86s with the relatively slow speed, you're 10 cars deep in the line, you're not going to be seeing much as you head off onto the brakes for the opening corner. As Carl Modoff, wow, qualifying officially in the books, and by 0.2 of a second, he stands on top.
Indeed he does. We're going to let it advance into a warm-up here, actually. We did have to do a little bit of fun times with the qualifying session, and you can see exactly why. The rain has started to fall, and just in time for the grid for qualifying. Carl Modoff will start from pole. Last-minute effort, last-minute join, and about 20 minutes of practice gives him the pole position, but as everything gets set up, you'll see somewhat of an unfamiliar name to his outside. We expected Trent Dinkle to be very, very good in the dirt trucks last year, and he was exactly that good, but on the road course, in a Toyota GR86, Trent Dinkle's also put it on the front row. The two-time Cup Series champion from the last 2 seasons is on the front row with Carl Modoff. Dalton Zavadil, P3, Mr. Z, the GT3 Sprint Series champion from this season, starts alongside defending PRL All-Star Invitational champion Kevin Sandiego, looking to go 2 for 2. Sean Campbell starts P5, a little bit lower than I think he would expect, and is Raya Osborne, the GT3 Fix champion from this season, is P6. Graham Wildman brings the fans on his side. Jack Hedgecock's LMP2 champion from the last 2 seasons is on row number 4, and Daniel Krasowski and Chris Hudson round out the top 10. Ted Lowendick, another fan favorite, P11, alongside Boris Ovando, who won in the GT3 Sprint Series. Michael Diaz, representing GTP, starts alongside one of our truck drivers, Marty Calvert. William Fenson, all the way in Australia, starts alongside Miguel Angel Fonseca, who didn't win in a GT3 car. He actually won in a NASCAR truck. Joshua Chinsky made it after the last minute. He's going to be looking forward to the Indy car race a little bit later, and he starts alongside the second of the Campbells. That's Rob Campbell in 18th. Jeff Evans, loser, made it into this event after painting 162 cars. He puts it P20 alongside his Whataback teammate Patrick Cowgill. Arnaud Genet had to miss the first event, so he's getting a re-invite, and he starts alongside Andrew Sharp. Jim Feliz won a race in the GT3 Fix Series. He starts alongside champion of the LMP3 Series, Jason Drescher. Down in 25th, Daniel Zegers came up short in the LMP2 championship, but he's here tonight to fight for this. Jake Maki from Stamford, Connecticut starts 26th. Jose Acosta, the second Acosta, starts alongside truck champion Steve Loving. Brett Adams and the Ostrich himself, Adam Ostrich, round out the top 30. Luke Christian and Abner Acosta, two drivers from the Cup Series on row number 16. Ryan Latshaw, Bruno Mello, James O'Brien, and Pat Harvey bring us down to the 36th spot. And last but not least, all alone in 37th place will be Stephen Kirby at the end of the grid. That's a lot of cars, Arjuna. That is a breathtaking grid, and the green flag flies immediately. Carl Modoff, for the first time in the PRL, takes us to green in the wet, but Trent Dinkle jumps him off the start. Kevin Sandiego gets an excellent start as well on the outside, and look at Sean Campbell peeking to the inside into turn one.
I mean, just wait for the spray to start to pick up for these drivers, but how tentative are you going to be? How confident are you going to be? They're two very different things, I think, in a lot of ways. Campbell with that confidence to try and get past Modoff. Dinkle clearly has done his practice, because look at how he's setting sail. Rain not affecting him, clean air into the opening couple of corners.
And it's almost like a flip from last season. Remember his start in the trucks? He had a terrible start and got swallowed up. He's flipped that around. And look at this hornet's nest of NASCAR drivers. We've got Cup drivers and truck drivers all together figuring out this spray. But up front, side by side for P5, Graham Wildman peeking to the inside of Dalton Zavadil. He gets the run on the outside, though.
Yeah, this is where, of course, they're going to start wrapping back around to head on to the banking, and their speed will start to build. Couple of drivers taking looks, but 3 wide. Is that going to be 4 in the background? Surely not. They are.
Jeff Evans in the poop green car does not make it 4 wide, but getting turned around was one of the GT3 drivers. I think that's Boris Ovando falling to the back after getting tipped around to the hairpin.
It was indeed, and so 2 drivers spinning, Jake Mackey and Ovando, everyone else clear on this opening lap, but as the windshield wipers hard at work, 3 drivers at the front trying to break away. Can Sean Campbell get up the inside? He's going to go for it.
Ooh.
Door slam shot on him.
Sean's been doing a lot of practice around here. He was looking forward to the wet, and he definitely came into this race as one of the favorites. He has the highest road I rating in the field, and you definitely expect a driver like Sean Campbell to excel here. But defending champion Kevin Sandiego just got into trouble in the background. You saw his pink Formula C painted car. He's fallen to P10 after going wide in turn 1.
I mean, it's not as crazy as that LCQ we had with the figure 8, but this is still pretty crazy. We take a look at the replay of turn 1, and Loving gives a shot to the back of Mackey. And, well, not by himself as he goes around.
That's a truck civil war right there. Steve Loving and Jake Maki. Gonna be some hard feelings there potentially. What happened to Boris Ovando coming into the hairpin here? William Fenson to his outside, Ted Lowendick on the outside as well. But a little bit of understeer for Boris right in front of Josh Chinsky. Can probably blame himself for that one. Here's Kevin Sandiego, defending champion, figuring out just how tough turn 1 at Phoenix Road is in the wet.
And you got to be careful in the grass, because you can't bog yourself down. Not that hard, so had to make sure he stayed clear. One thing to note, if you're wondering, well, who's on what tire, they're all in the wets. There's no questioning that right now.
Really?
You can see the puddles of water down low. Because we're on a banked oval, the actual oval part of it not going to be an issue. As soon as they come off the banking, though, that infield is going to have puddles of standing water. And even with wet tires, Joey, there's not much that's going to really do to help you in that situation if you start aquaplaning.
Oh, hopping over the curb was Sean Campbell there. He's using every inch this track has to offer. A little bit of trouble in the background. You see a car in the wall in NASCAR Turn 4. I think that was Miguel Angel Fonseca getting into a little bit of trouble. But this threesome up front is very exciting, and I think it was Daniel Zegers, actually, that had some of that trouble into Turn 1.
Well, he may have started it because he pulls the handbrake and slightly Tokyo drifts it. Oh, Miguel Fonseca's gone somewhere else. Oh, and then hits the wall by himself, too.
I think he was trying to run the oval. I think he was like, I'm done road course racing. I'm a truck driver now. I want the oval.
Well, clearly found it was an issue to slow these cars down in a straight line, even with the ABS that they do have. Now, top 3 starting to break away. What's happened to some of those further behind? Abner Acosta's way off the track. That's where they sometimes go for the rallycross layout.
That's in New Mexico, Abner. What are you doing out there? But Abner came into this session with only a couple of minutes of practice. He showed up very late. He kind of got screwed up by the time zone difference or the time change. Oh, that was Acosta on Acosta. That was Jose turning his brother.
Uh-oh, family war as Sean Campbell up the inside of the live picture and going for the lead as well. Fires it up the inside of Trent Dinkle. Gets one, does not get to first position though. These three putting on a show. There is fighting further behind. It's just not as close as this.
I love family fighting, but I love this fighting as well because it is two champions. LMP3 Trent Dinkle goes around. It's not a fight for very long. He finally succumbs to the wet, loops it around. He'll keep it going in a straight line, but he's got to get back pointed straight. Jeff Evans hoping that 720 gets him pointed straight as well.
It did indeed. I mean, everywhere you look, there's something happening. Poor Trent Dinkle. I can only imagine what's going on for him as we take the look on board. He's one of the drivers, Joey, that's giving us the onboard look. He doesn't look too thrilled right now, though.
No, especially because it was his own mistake, but plenty of time to recover. Remember last season, or last time we did this, Trent had a bad day in the trucks. I believe ended up flipping at some point and did very well at Daytona. Couldn't win the 2-race total point affair, though, because he didn't do quite well enough in one race. But if he finishes 7th and wins in the IndyCar coming up, he could still win this All-Star Invitational. It's all about both races. Here's Bruno Mello, one of the new names of the PRL this season, won his first race in the Cup Series, and it's good to see Bruno trying to fight back from the back. Miguel Fonseca asks, am I a star? Well, the answer is obviously yes.
He always has fascinating messages for us, doesn't he? You can just see that spray as well from the various perspectives. Chris Hudson's view, you can actually see the windshield wiper on his screen if you look hard enough. It's going hard at work. He doesn't look too thrilled about it, or is that just a pensive look right now from his lips?
I think that's just how he looks generally, but he's very happy to be here. Won a race for the first time in over 2 years to qualify for this event, so he's just happy to be here, I can only imagine.
Yeah, I mean, stressed out right now probably as well in the conditions that they've got because Joey was not kind when he set up the weather.
No, I was not. I wanted him to be in the Hudson River.
No, you were definitely not kind. Up the inside as we ride with Ted Lowendick. Now, this is a fight for 7th position, and they're dragging themselves off the back of Dinkle and stuff. And they'll go 3 wide as Kevin Sandiego says, don't you know I'm an all-star?
Yeah, right now as we ride on board with Ted, he's going to be thinking, bop. Hoot and boobay doo bop. Where in the world is Kevin Sandiego? He's got to the inside of Michael Diaz, and now he looks to the inside of Michael's Precision Racing Esports teammate, Dan Krasowski, to try and pick P7 back if he can into turn 1. Here comes Sandiego.
Oh, had to back out of it in the end, as by the way, Sean Campbell has run away with your race lead, and maybe there wasn't a doubt of that already almost halfway through this one. It does not look comfortable, and I don't think these GR86s have a windows, so rain would be getting in as another driver off wide. That's Rob Campbell, who's got lost now.
Yep, he is soaking wet. The one Campbell is doing very well up front. One Campbell having some bad luck into turn 1. We just can't have people with the same name in the same family. Both Acostas came together. Sean and Rob, not related, but you can only have one Campbell succeed. You can only have one Acosta succeed. That's what we're learning.
Yeah, Sean, by the way, I mean, he's not having it all his own way as Carl starts to close that gap once more. Now, all it's going to take is a bit of traffic, and I don't know if we have enough time to get traffic necessarily, unless there's more chaos, which they continue fighting like this. That's William Fenson alongside of Jason Dresser. We could be in for it.
There's always going to be chaos. You can't avoid chaos in a race like this. But this is going to be an excellent battle here. William Fenson won his first race in the PRL this season. Actually got to win his home race at Bathurst, technically. Jason Drescher, we're used to seeing him in a much purpler car, a much chocolatier car, actually. But he's in his LMP3 colors, and he's hunting. He's making sure that orange nose is very, very visible. It's not visible enough, though, into turn 1. You'll see, though, as we come through turn 1, Jack Hedgecox is very far off the road, as is one of the other GT3 drivers. I think that was Jim Feliz.
It was indeed. I mean, just mistakes that you wouldn't necessarily make in the drive because drivers just are getting caught out by. It's not even the changing conditions, right? It's just the difficult conditions at the end of the day. Cars running wide. I mean, one thing that I did see requests from on forums, Reddit posts, and everything in between is can iRacing increase the incident count whenever there is rain because magically drivers are going to start running wider? I think the emphatic answer to that from iRacing has been no.
Yes, luckily, in this race, there is no incident counter. Normally in the PRL, it's 13 and you get a drive through 17 and it's disqualified. Kevin Sandiego, though, he's in trouble in the hairpin. He had a great drive forward. Looked like he might be able to recover a P6, but now he's got to recover all those spots he was just able to gain.
And qualifying, by the way, you see that left side of your screen, is important because while Drescher's plus 14, Sharp's plus 10, there's not much movement outside of that. All things considered, it has been quite stable up towards the front. You don't want to leave yourself down in 20th or behind. Going into Indianapolis as well, knowing that, like Joey mentioned, it's basically going to be a no-stop race. No one's going to be really thinking about... Joey, no one should be coming in for fuel. Am I allowed to say that?
Theoretically, if they've done their studying, though.
Right,
but
exactly.
I didn't give drivers help in that aspect. I told them the length, and it's up to them to figure it out. And if they do, if they don't, we can only wait and see. This is fantastic stuff, though. San Diego, Michael Diaz. It's especially fantastic for Ted, because he's looking in his rearview mirror, and it's slowing San Diego up just a little bit. They've straightened it out, though, and now he's got to start looking back there again. Kevin's coming.
Just trying to figure out, by the way, who might be favorites, given that qualifying at Indianapolis is a skill in and of itself.
Well, it's going to be even more of a skill because it's open qualifying at Indy this time.
Then it's a slam dunk. Why didn't you say that?
It's going to be something you've never seen before. Remember last time we did Cadillacs at Daytona?
Open qualifying.
Open qualifying. Just like at Daytona last time out, it's going to be a draft festival.
Well,
you better find some buddies out there.
I thought for a second you meant open setup, and I was saying, oh, well, Dan Zagers has got this on lock then. Okay. Open qualifying. That makes things a little bit different. Right. We'll get to that bridge when we get to it because there's no form because now you've got to deal with dirty air.
Exactly.
That's going to be interesting. Joey, is it meant to be raining more now, by the way?
Yes, it is. It's chucking it down, as some of our international friends would say. Kevin San Diego, though, off in the puddles, was trying to make it work around the outside of Ted Lowendick. Ted's a little bit of a rain master right now. He's forcing him into the puddles.
Yeah, I was going to say, basically the only way that I'm telling you, being able to tell that right now, is that there are a bit more puddles on the track as Michael Diaz with the lunge up the inside, and surely he'll be able to get the drive off the corner with these relatively low cars, just use that shorter line to get to the hairpin, but no, alongside they'll be. The puddles are dangerous, though. It is going to start to unsettle these drivers, and maybe that explains. You remember Jim Feliz went deep into the braking zone. Maybe he just hit a puddle and straight off he went.
And also, if this is any hope for Kevin San Diego, remember last time out, he won the truck race and finished 11th at Daytona, and that added up to enough points to give him the All-Star Invitational. If he finishes 8th right now and wins at Indy, it's still very possible that he could defend his title. I don't think he's happy with 8th, though. He wants every spot he can get, and he's still looking forward. But Andrew Sharp's looking forward as well. He's had a fantastic drive through the field. He's used to this GR86. This is what he used to drive before he switched into the trucks. And he's trying to be a little bit of a master here, show up these guys at his own game.
Yeah, but the problem is, you can just see in front, when they are 2x2, there's not really a point to try to take it 3 wide until you see an opening. Now, the problem is, as Sharp slips on through, he might have a slowdown as a result of that, but ultimately stayed out of the chaos. Might now lose 1 as Fenson slips on through.
William Fenson very thankful for that one. Michael Diaz and Jason Drescher did a great job of keeping it pointed straight there, getting it going again. But it is lucky in that aspect that this is basically a track that goes through a parking lot. So if you do spin, if you do get turned, as long as it's in the infield, you're probably going to be okay if you can find where you're going again.
Yeah, but I mean, as soon as you spin, right, you're basically you've lost ground that you're never going to make up again. That's why Diaz was smart to back out 3 wide. Very off topic, but you know, smart driving, especially in rain, is going to be so important. I was watching the NASCAR Cup Series today, and there was a pit stop where I forget who it was, but they didn't get the wheel completely on. And what did they do? Well, they instead of sending the car off with a loose wheel and getting a penalty for it, no, they took their time, fixed it, and then sent the car out. Did they lose spots? Yes, but they didn't lose as many spots as they would have if they had sent the car out and made the poor decision. Make the right decision, as here comes Chris Hudson trying to make a decision up the inside.
Oh, Andrew Sharp, very, very aggressive into turn 1, using every single inch of that asphalt. The wide berth, though, opens the door for Hudson and potentially opens the door for Michael Diaz. You don't have to look too far back behind these guys either. Arnaud Genet is coming, and Michael Diaz knows he needs to push right now. He needs to find some clean air, because if Arnaud catches this battle, it's going to be even more spray, it's going to be even more chaos, and it's going to be even more to fight for in these final 6 minutes.
Yeah, it's been fun, by the way. This past Thursday, we kicked off Porsche Esports Canada stuff, and we have a bunch of the Precision Racing League drivers in there, including a certain Mr. Genet. So looking forward to seeing more and more of the drivers outside of the PRL realm moving forward, but a new season kicking off soon. Hopefully we'll add some more winners to the list. Look at that up and under, just trying to get off the normal racing line as well. That's something iRacing's done a great job of. When you're on that rubbered in dry line, it feels like there's no grip, and I've got to wonder, especially on that banked oval turn, how it's got to feel. Look how unsettled the car is for the both of them.
Yeah, it's flat out at this track when it's dry, but when it's wet, it is understeer city. It doesn't quite look like that much of a lake as it does look like on our screen, but it definitely feels like that because you are just flying through there. And it's almost like driving the 87 car through the oval at this place. You have to do a little bit of lifting and a little bit of braking. Time is running out, though. There is not much more time if you're going to want to make a move. Sean Campbell is dead out front. He's not going to be caught, I don't think. But there may be spots opening up. Daniel Krasowski in a little bit of trouble behind Ted Lowendick.
He's made a small mistake and instantly dropped 2 positions behind San Diego and that purple people-eating machine. Now, got to watch for Fenton, Drescher, Hudson, and the rest that are looming large behind with 5 minutes left on the clock. Now, we don't yet have the graphic that shows us how much rain there is at the start-finish line, so it doesn't really tell us too much, our weather graphic right now, but apparently it's overcast. I think I agree with that, as I predict rather, there's going to be some more contact as this battle brews on for what is now 9.
Well, that's always tough when you're racing against Jason, because he's got the Drescher pressure. You see Drescher in your rearview mirror, you know something might go on there, and he forces William Fenton out of the way. Chris Hudson's going to get to the inside for the last spot in the top 10. But this is side-by-side down the front straight. Might even be 3 wide into turn 1 as Andrew Sharp's looking for a way by. He's been racing in NASCAR all season. He's used to sending it 3 wide. The door's not open just yet. He's got to use some of his road course skills to get things waiting, and William Fenton's off into the Outback.
And say bye-bye to 1, 2, maybe 3 places as Arnaud Genet won't end up slipping through, and so small mistake. Fortunately, not larger consequences as one more driver makes a critical error at the very high-speed turn 1, and that's where, of course, the water will be pooling off of the banking. You have to unload, and I mean, you can't really tell, but that surface, it's awful right now. I mean, these are conditions where maybe in these GR86s you'd still be allowed to go racing, but in basically anything open wheel, you'd be pulled off the track.
Well, also, the place we're in Phoenix here, virtual
it's
Phoenix.
Very unrealistic, don't worry.
If it was raining this much in Phoenix, there'd be a new lake probably around here.
We would be curing the droughts, but we'd also be proving that global warming and climate change is an issue.
Yeah, people would be looking for Noah's Ark out there. I don't think they'd be too happy.
Yeah, I mean, right now, as much as the top 2 have broken away, there are some really interesting fights behind. I mean, San Diego and Lowendick, haven't they spent the better part of 12 minutes side by side and looking into the eyes of one another?
Pretty much. They've been glued together. Both of them have made small errors, but they've found each other and they've done well enough to be here in the top 10. And that's all you can really ask for. Both of these guys are going to be strong at Indy. Ted's been doing some testing. Kevin's been doing some testing as well. These guys are still absolutely favorites for this All-Star Invitational title. Riding on board with Ted, though, he can literally see nothing. He can see nothing in front of him.
Oh, he hit a puddle! There's the
it's a great windshield.
I mean, these are wet tires in the sense that they've got a little bit more, I guess, tread and groove in them than the regular dries, but, they're not wide tires by any means. The amount of grip that you get through them, I mean, it's not too dissimilar driving this car in the dry, to be completely fair.
Look at that, little bit of NASCAR side-by-side. Still Chris Hudson and Andrew Sharp. They've not been able to give each other up. They have swallowed up Michael Diaz, though, who's fallen back just a little bit, and that's a little bit of a surprise, because Michael Diaz, road course ace, he's won in basically everything. He's won in GT4, GT3, GTP, and everything you can possibly ask for, but he's been swallowed up by a couple of NASCAR guys here. Chris Hudson looking just as nonplussed as he ever has. With about 2 laps to go, he doesn't have much more time to get by through Andrew Sharp.
While we watch these drivers, Graham Wildman has gone sent the chat wild. He's gone forward to 3rd position.
Oh.
I mean, how many drivers have we watched make that mistake in front of us? And somehow, for a second, I thought Chris Hudson was going to follow, but ended up keeping it out of the grassy stuff.
Andrew Sharp suffering there. Sean Campbell, though, we haven't said his name much, which is kind of a shame. Sean Campbell is an exciting guy when he wants to be, but he tends to win races in the most boring way possible. He gets out front, he runs away, and it looks like he's going to be able to do that in race 1 here. This is very exciting, though, for P3. Dinkel, Zavadil, and Wildman getting the bumpers out with 2 laps to go.
And do you want to see how this pass was made? Because,
absolutely.
I didn't realize that the bump pass was the accepted move under rain conditions. Trent Dinkel shoves Wildman, who then gets a bit of impetus to fire it past Zavadil, and somehow forward to third they go as we head on to what will, I think, be the final lap of the race.
Yep, white flag in the air. Graham Wildman, the only representative from GT4s, by the way, so he's got a whole series on his back with no Alexis Moisan or Andrew Rasmussen or any of those. Justin Ream couldn't make it either, so lots of drivers to represent with that green color. Sean Campbell, though, the rain master today, did a lot of practice. Also did some clone hero before we started, maybe to get his fingers nice and nimble, and it's clearly paid off for him. He's gonna have a 4-second lead coming into the hairpin for the final time.
And you know, for Sean Campbell, I have the sense that he's probably been waiting to do this for quite a while. You know, he's the kind of guy that enjoys driving on other sims. He enjoys testing stuff out, and just as much as he enjoys racing and competing at the top level, he just enjoys the driving part of it as well, which is refreshing to see, Joey, at the top level when these guys put in so much effort and so much time behind the wheel.
And I believe after missing 2024 Season 1, we will see Sean Campbell back in the PRL in some capacity next season, and he's going to kick that off in very good style. Sean Campbell wins the first ever wet race in the PRL, and he's going to show off a little bit due to drift into Turn 1. Karl Modov, with no practice, comes back to very good attention, and Graham Wildman rounds out the podium. The chat goes absolutely wild for that one. Phenomenal drive from a driver who's very used to this car. Defending champion Kevin Sandiego, though, he's going to come home with P6. Maybe a couple spots lower than he would have liked, but he's still very much alive coming into Indy coming up next.
Yeah, I think Indy's going to be fun with that qualifying session ahead. Still battles through the field, though, as I think that's Miguel Fonseca that's just passed Jose Acosta through the final corner, and that shows never give up. Acosta and Fonseca fighting for 18th and 19th, but bragging rights on the line all the way down through the field, and I have the sense that, Joey, you're going to get some angry messages from drivers because of how many puddles some ended up slipping through.
Well, they should send that to the weather gods. Send that to Mr. Rain himself. He'll take all that hate mail.
Yeah, but didn't you do your rain dance just before this?
Oh, you're right. I am the rain god.
Very specific rain dance as well.
I am the rain god. I already forgot. I forgot about my powers. So yeah, I'm probably gonna get some anthrax in the mail, but they were expecting that. They were expecting some big rain, some big action. They definitely got that. And everybody still getting to cross the line. Stephen Kirby surviving 20 minutes. That's all you could ask for some of these guys who aren't really used to road racing, especially not used to road racing in the rain. Just finishing is an accomplishment in and of itself. But Sean Campbell was victorious in the first wet race in the PRL, ahead of Karl Modov and ahead of Graham Wildman. Fourth place went to another driver who I'm already forgetting who it was. We'll get the results up when we can, and we're gonna load up into the second session while we can. Dalton Zavadil finished P4 ahead of Trent Dinkel. Kevin Sandiego, looking to defend his PRL All-Star Invitational title, finished P6. Lowendick, Krasowski, Drescher, and Hudson rounded out the top 10 in race 1. Michael Diaz fell out of the top 10. He finished just ahead of Arnaud Genet, a re-invite from 2023 Season 3. Jim Feliz, Andrew Sharp, and William Fenson rounded out the top 15. Ovando, Cowgill, Fonseca, Acosta, and Hedgecox, they're all going to be looking for better days at Indy to keep their hopes alive. The Ostrich, Adam Ostrich, got locked out of his car in practice almost. Finally rejoined and had a good drive forward through the field. Jeff Evans in the car that he painted did not have the best day. He was in 22nd. James O'Brien qualified for this event with a win, 23rd. Brett Adams, Abner Acosta, Steve Loving, Rob Campbell, Marty Calvert, Daniel Zeggers, and Joshua Chinsky rounded out the top 30. I know Chinsky's very excited for the IndyCar coming up, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in that. But the hits kept on coming because Lou Christian, Jake Maki, Bruno Mello, and Stephen Kirby rounded out the lead lap finishers. Ryan Latshaw and Isaiah Osborne ran into some early trouble. They're going to be looking for redemption at Indy as well. But as everybody loads into the other session, Arjuna, we'll give the drivers some time to get their Indy cars ready and switch sessions. While they do that, though, we can talk to the winners of Race 1 and see how they're feeling before Race 2 comes up. We'll start with Mr. Sean Campbell. Sean, you came back to the PRL after a season off, and you've already shown up people again, just totally dominating in the wet.
Well, Well, I have been practicing in the wet a lot.
There you
Basically, I haven't done a dry lap on a track since the update came out.
Well, Sean, I'm going to wish you good luck at Indy. Figure that out as well, and we'll see if you can come home here with the PRL All-Star Invitational Championship.
Hopefully, yeah.
Mr. Campbell, going to let him go do some Indy practice. We'll go down to second place Carl Modoff as well real quick. Carl, you got about 20 minutes of practice accepting that league invite late, and it paid off pretty well for you. Second place in race 1.
Yeah, honestly, I was a little surprised to see myself on pole, but that's the best place to start with the new rain model, the spray. It just gets really difficult to start judging where you're at. So, yeah, starting up front, had a good race. I knew Sean was super fast, and he'd be hard to beat once he got ahead of me. But that was a lot of fun. Had a good time.
Well, Carl, I wish you good luck in race 2. I'll let you go load in there, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Thanks, guys.
Carl Modoff coming home second in race 1. We'll see what he can do in race number 2. And last but not least, we got to make the chat happy before race 2 comes. Graham Wildman, you got your favorite car back at the GR86, and you've really lived up to expectations.
You know, it felt like I never left. You know,
Exactly.
Definitely happy with that one.
Well, Indy's coming up. How are you feeling about that? Very different, higher speeds, oval racing. Is the Graham All-Star Invitational Championship going to come here?
You know, last time we were in the Indy cars there in the community art race, I took home the victory, but this is a little different. Indianapolis definitely bites back, so we'll see how I'm doing after about the first 10 laps and go from there.
Well, Graham, I don't need to tell you good luck. The chat's already done that. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Thanks, fellas.
Graham Wildman coming home third in race 1, fighting for that All-Star Invitational Championship, but nobody is actually fighting for big prizes today. There are prizes. You get to race for free in the PRL if you win this event, and you get a nice poster, but every driver in the PRL is eligible for a prize draw at the end of the season, and Arjuna, I think you're going to tell us who wins those prizes this season.
Yes, thank you, Joey. It's time to do the prize draw. Great to be able to do this as well as part of our All-Star Invitational once again. A lot of cool prizes courtesy of all the amazing partners that not only bring the Precision Racing League to life, but most particularly, of course, bring the broadcast to life as well. All of that wouldn't be possible without them. So let's dive straight into it. We've got a handful of things to give away. Let's start with the Butt Kicker Gamer Plus. Butt Kicker has very kindly offered up one of their Gamer Plus kits for the community. A great way to add to your sim rig with a little bit more immersion, those rumble, those haptic feedbacks to give you a little bit more sensation, especially in the rain. Our winner of the Butt Kicker Gamer Plus here in 2024 Season 1 is Christopher Ryan. So congratulations, Christopher. A new Butt Kicker is headed in your direction. From Butt Kicker, let's go on over to Racebox Sim Racing, who are providing a race flag LED display along with 2 $80 gift cards. So an opportunity for drivers to be aware of what's coming up on track in front of them, and also to add to their sim rigs with whatever they want. So thank you to Racebox Sim Racing for their support. And our winners, without further ado, first of the race flag LED display, Jim Westerfield, and then of our 2 $80 US dollar gift cards, it's Kenny Gorman and Stefan Varaday. So congratulations to them, and once again, thank you to Racebox Sim Racing. Next up, let's go to Advanced Motorsports, who are providing 2 one-hour coaching sessions to really help you develop your sim racing skills, as well as 5 of their iRacing Ultimate Guide. And please, guys, I need that just so I can become a better commentator, I think, as well. Maybe some would argue that. But the winners of the 2 iRacing coaching sessions, Andrew Trickett and Michael Diaz, and the iRacing Ultimate Guide, Ian Cabana, Kwok Nin, Andrew Sharp, Luis Rodriguez, and Jared Duploy. So congratulations, guys. Hopefully things that will help you go just that little bit faster moving into 2024 Season 2. Next up, we have Mr. Hedge, iRacing Photography, who really have captured some of the finest as well as maybe not so fine moments from the previous season in the Precision Racing League. They are offering 2 10 custom sim racing picture packs for the Precision Racing League community. A great way to immortalize a race win, or maybe to just remember some of your less than fortunate moments. The winners of the 2 sim racing picture packs, Eric Kulaga and Ted Lowendick. Congratulations, guys. I'm sure you'll get plenty of shots of your beautiful GT3 machines that I've commentated on, or maybe something else. Next up, Moradness, who are providing 2 of their gloves. Of course, Daniel Morad, Moradness, such a strong supporter of the Precision Racing League. And gloves, in my opinion, you can kind of see it over my shoulder. I wear them in the sim racing cockpit. I think they're a great addition. And personalized gloves, personally, just add that little bit of a touch as well. Our winners of the 2 gloves for 2024 Season 1, Jeff Carollo and Frankie Arvello. So congratulations, guys, on your 2 Moradness gloves. And I think last but not least, Advanced Sim Racing, who are providing 10 $100 US gift cards to their site. So an opportunity for you to go and pick what you want most. And 10 drivers going to grab a gift card here. Plenty will share, I think, in that enjoyment. The 10 winners are Devin Maines, Alex Wright, Dalton Zavadil, Chris Vinson, Sully Saad, Donald Olson, Boris Avando, Doug Sorrentino, Devin Maines, and Kenny Gorman. So congratulations, guys. Thank you once again to Advanced Sim Racing, and thank you to all of our partners at the Precision Racing League for making this happen. And, well, Joey, let's go and have some more fun with our second race of this All-Star Invitational.
Well, thank you, Arjuna, for drawing those prizes. Congrats to all the drivers who won in the random draw and are going home with those beautiful prizes. That's one of my favorite things they do in the PRL every season, not just because I'm eligible for the prizes because I raced in some of the series, but you never know. You don't even have to win a championship to go home with some pretty great stuff.
Yeah, and of course, all of it courtesy of our partners that make all of this possible. So some really cool prizes in there. And I'm just looking forward to seeing the pictures that a certain Ted Lowendick picks up from, because don't think his GT3 exploits have necessarily been one to photograph about recently, have they?
No, they have not, but we've got a beautiful photograph on our screen right now. The Indy car at Indianapolis. 2024 was a big year, especially for you and I, Arjuna, because the Indy car is back in full force on iRacing. We can have these broadcasts again, and we can do something in the PRL that we've never done before. There was once an IndyCar series in the PRL with the old DW12 that's now in the Dallara Dash or whatever, but with a modern IndyCar at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This has never been done before, and we're going to advance into qualifying here.
Yeah, it should be interesting with that open qualifying as well, given that, they never qualify like that on an oval, so it should be quite intriguing with the fixed setup, how that plays, and how the draft works. And in practice right now, Dan Zager's fastest of them all, Ted Lowendick, and then Abner Acosta second and third, so maybe not a surprise at the very top. But this is going to be, I think, quite interesting. I think everyone's going to want to head out onto track as soon as possible, given it's only 5 minutes in this session.
Yeah, you better get your laps down early, and you better hope you have some buddies. You see all those red cars? Those are all the Truck Series winners. I wonder if they're going to try and find each other and use each other as some drafting buddies. But yeah, you've got to get out there quick, Arjuna. There is not much time on the clock. Lap time's about 40 seconds, and you're going to need a draft if you're going to want to start on pole.
Well, it's the great problem, right, of course, as well as, they're all probably on a relatively large amount of fuel to begin with, so they're trying. Ooh, there's a spinner off a pit lane. Oof. That's not great. Who is that that's managed? Is that Lou Christensen?
I think that is Lou Christian. That's one of the Cup Series drivers, at least. Yes, that is Lou Christian. I can now confirm. And also, I see a second green car on track, and that reminds me, as one of the Cup Series or Truck Series drivers is off in turn 4 in the JR Hildebrand line. There are 2 GT4 drivers. It's not just Graham Wildman. Adam Ostrich is here as well, holding down the fort for GT4. But we're already on the first laps on the clock here, Arjuna. There's trouble for one of the LMP2 drivers. I think that was Hedgecock's. But laps starting now will start to count.
And as I was trying to say before we got all those spinners, lap times, I'm not sure if they're going to just keep going down, because your tires wear at a pretty high rate here at Indy, but your fuel's going to be wearing off as well, right? So you want to use the draft, you want to make the most of your tires. You only get the 5 minutes, so maybe you'll get 3 or 4 attempts. Only 2 of those will probably be good, so you got to make the most of them. And they do have in-car tools, ARBs, weight jackers to try and dial it in. Expect them to tip into the 39s, if not into the 38s, by the end of the qualifying session.
And they also have fuel maps they can play with. We're going to have to think about that once race time comes around, as Ted Lowendick puts it on pole, and there is a hellacious crash through turn 1. Oh, somebody's turtled. I think that's one of the Truck Series drivers.
And so now I think that's basically them done for the session, right? Because we're already half complete. It's going to take them that long to get back around and do a warm-up lap initially, effectively, before they get their first flying lap after the out lap and warm-up lap, because that's kind of how sometimes you want to build it up. And right now, only 14 drivers onto the board. Are we in danger of not seeing many drivers able to make themselves start up through the field? We talked about how important that would be in the previous race already today.
Sean Campbell found a drafting buddy. That is very scary for the rest of the field. If anybody else wants to win the PRL All-Star Invitational, they need Sean Campbell to have a bad day and start deeper in the field or crash somehow or have something go wrong. Because if he even finishes second, he is in very, very good shape here. Abner Acosta goes to P3, understandably taking a little bit better to oval racing than he did earlier on, even though he did start in road course racing. Joshua Chinsky in the top 5, the Indiana driver, and Jeff Evans puts it on pole with a huge draft.
Yeah, but I think right now it's just draft, right? Because you're not seeing big splits through everyone else, so it's all about being able to get a slingshot at the right time. And as increasingly now 21 times onto the board, there's about 10 drivers or so that were still waiting to set themselves up. Half a second currently splits 10 drivers.
That's oval racing for you. 33 drivers, how fitting in this qualifying session right now. A field of 33 will take to the green at Indianapolis. Ted Lowendick on your screen right now did hit the wall coming out of turn 1, so I don't think this lap will count, but he has the potential of getting a very, very big draft. He's got a Truck Series driver in front of him. He's got Adam Ostrich, I believe. He's got one of the GT3 fixed drivers as well. This could be a quadruple draft if Ted times this right.
Yeah, he's too close, I think, though, to the car in front, really, unless that car is going to get a mega shot, and, well, that's it, done. No chance after you hit the wall like that. And 1 minute left in the session. Basically, I think drivers will get the next lap that they're on, and really that will be it, because you don't really want to be relying on that next one. Dan Zager's about a quarter of a second off, and as you see a car up into the wall out of turn 4, he gets a slingshot here, potentially to the line for what might be his final quick time.
And Zegers has to be one of the favorites here. So much IndyCar experience, a big name from the Lionheart series, from both modern IndyCars and old IndyCars. Doesn't improve his position, though. He got about 800ths off. Still stuck behind Ted Lowendick, though, and still trying to steal a draft off of Sean Campbell. But you might get a draft. It might make you faster. You are understeering through the corners, though, in the dirty air. And Daniel Zegers is learning that firsthand here, or being reminded of that, I should say.
And now you got a car coming out of pit lane, I think that was, who's not really going to even get a chance to really set a lap, so Zager's going to have to take a longer distance to try and even pass him. I mean, if there's anyone you want to draw from, Sean Campbell's probably not a bad driver. You see already Ted Lowendick back down on pit lane after his monumental shot. Now checkered flag's going to fly, and quick times will count. The pressure is truly on.
Who's going to get a draft to the line? One of the Truck Series drivers had a pretty solid run there. Nothing doing on the timesheets, though. Jeff Evans could start on pole here, and that would be rather remarkable. Driver who did not win a race in competition in the Precision Racing League, but he is very good at big tracks like this. At the super speedways, he is always very fast, and he does have at least some IndyCar experience, so he knew what he was expecting. And he's going to be sort of a shock here, pacing the field, and seeing if he can get his first win in the PRL in about 3 seasons in an exhibition race.
I think that is it. I don't know if there's any drivers who have the chance to try and improve now, and he will have that pressure, and he also has the concern, right, of, you mentioned fuel maps earlier and trying to save fuel. To be fair, if you're not leading the line at Indy, going 30 laps isn't a concern. The real concern becomes when you're leading the line or doing what is more realistically going to happen, the swap drafting at the front, bouncing back and forth and potentially trying to extend the margin. That's where sometimes you have to worry just that little bit more. And, oh, don't forget 30 laps plus the full formation lap that you've got to deal with as well.
Yeah, better put that thing in fuel map 8. Make sure you're not wasting a single drop. But Jeff Evans will start from pole for the first time in quite a while. Michael Diaz starts his outside. And Sean Campbell looking for the PRL All-Star Invitational win overall. He's certainly done good stuff for him. If the race ends as the starting grid is right now, Sean Campbell would be your winner. Lots can happen, though. 30 laps of racing, no cautions. anything could happen. We'll see. Ted Lowendick starts to his outside, and 2 LMP2 winners, Daniel Zegers, very much experienced in the IndyCar, and Joshua Chinsky, very experienced as well. He's a driver from Indiana, for that matter. Marty Calvert and Abner Acosta make up row number 4. James O'Brien and Graham Wildman both advanced from the LCQ last season. They won their way in this season, and they'll be alongside each other ahead of Trent Dinkle and Jason Drescher, rounding out the top dozen. Unlucky 13th went to defending champion Kevin Sandiego. He's got a lot of work to do if he wants to defend his title. He starts alongside Arnaud Genet, who won in a Radical 2 seasons ago, and then 2 Truck Series winners, Miguel Angel Fonseca and Patrick Cowgill, the champion, line up alongside each other. Mr. Z, Dalton Zavadil, is also going to be looking forward as he starts alongside Chris Hudson on row number 9. 19th went to Carl Modoff. Again, another driver looking forward at Sean Campbell. Him and Zavadil were on the podium or near the podium, and they need to beat Sean Campbell from about 15 spots back now. He starts alongside Stephen Kirby, Mello, Acosta, Latshaw, and Loving, 4 oval drivers down to the end of the top 24. And how about 2 more with Brett Adams and Jake Maki rounding out the 13th row. William Fenson and Adam Ostrich from Australia and Canada start ahead of Lou Christian of the Cup Series and Jim Feliz of the GT3 Fix Series, but it is a field of 33 at Indianapolis. How fitting, rounded out by Andrew Sharp, Rob Campbell, and LMP2 champion Jack Hedgecox. That is an excellent field, all race winners except for Jeff Evans. And I can't wait to see this, Arjuna. We've never had an IndyCar race at Indianapolis in the PRL. And we also haven't had an IndyCar race at Indianapolis in 2024. We're kicking off the month of May 2 months early.
Should be a good one, and I think as well, we keep talking about fuel. There's no cautions enabled, right?
No cautions.
But yeah, I think that's the thing that's really going to make this interesting, because as soon as we get that first incident, not if but when, as soon as we get it, you're going to see the breakaway. You're then going to see the margin on fuel that drivers have to hit. Drivers who race in VR, they'll be at a disadvantage if they don't have a fuel calculator, for example, in real time. One advantage that the IndyCar does have, though, you get your actual fuel consumption, your fuel mileage on the dash, on the screen in front of you, on the inside of the car. So that's maybe the only way that some drivers will be trying to figure out if they're good to make it 30 laps or not.
Sean Campbell, after sitting pretty in race 1, comes into this race with the highest points total. All he really needs to do is finish ahead of Carl Modoff, and he'll be your PRL All-Star Invitational champion. But 30 laps at Indianapolis await, and anything can happen. There's drivers in this field who have never driven an Indy car before. There's drivers in this field who have never driven an oval before. But that's what the PRL All-Star Invitational is about, and they're all going to meet the bricks as the iRacing sedan pace car pulls off, and we are green at Indianapolis, led by the green car of Jeff Evans. We cross the yard of bricks in an Indy car at Indianapolis for the first time, and Sean Campbell's not scared. He sends it 3 wide into turn 1.
A delayed start there in some ways by Jeff Evans, who didn't go as soon as the pace car is off and away, and I wonder if that's because he knows, well, what we've got in store. They can stay 3 and 4 wide relatively easily if they're not going full chat. The danger will be fuel mileage, how aggressive drivers want to be, and at the end of the day, there's going to come an inflection point where you have to be at the front, and the mid-pack's going to start to be separated. There's a big one, a car up in the air.
And I think Kevin Sandiego was involved in that, unfortunately. Defending champion Kevin Sandiego in trouble, and there's more trouble. Trent Dinkle's off at the exit of turn 4. Trouble on the front stretch. One of the Truck Series drivers eats attenuator. We made it most of the lap pretty clean, but couldn't escape some of the trouble.
Yeah, well, Indy bites, and it bites hard when you're racing that aggressively, and I think track position was important. People wanted to be up towards the front and not too far adrift of all of the madness. And so what does it mean right now? Well, 14 cars run at the front and try and just stretch their legs and break away. If you're inside of the top 10 right now, let's say sitting 4th, 5th, and 6th position, you'll be feeling pretty comfortable, but I think Jeff Evans has got Dan Zegers alongside, and Zegers will be working those in-car tools to keep that car balanced, and he should get past Evans pretty quickly on the exit of turn number 4.
There are cars on pit lane. I think they were forced down there. You didn't have to make a pit stop. Damage healing was on. It would repair on track, but you don't want any damage. That's going to set you back too much. It's going to lose you the draft. All of these guys have been pretty clean. Joshua Chinsky, though, he ate the wall out of turn 1. He's going to be happy for that damage healing because that was a hard hit.
I think Wildman as well had a bit of contact with James O'Brien, and maybe both of them hoping that healing will help their car out. Let's see if we can pick up some of what happened on that opening lap, as into the third corner they go, and it already had kicked off in front.
Yeah, Kevin San Diego in the pink and gold car was kind of late to the party there and spun, but that's about 5 different Truck Series drivers. Let's try and see if we can see what kicked it off entirely. Riding on board with Kevin San Diego here into turn 3. There's a big checkup in front. He actually gets hit. He gets collected from behind.
And that's where some of the hellacious little lifts that we saw ended up spiraling from. What happened to Dinkle then after that is off of turn 4. You just said car 8 attenuator. I think it all built from before then. And I wonder if it was just an aftermath of what happened in turn number 3.
Yeah, coming off the corner. Oh, there's a bounce off the wall, I think, from one of the LMP2 drivers. Is that what caught Trent Dinkle, or was it Cup Series drivers 3 wide that did it? That's what ended up doing it. And yeah, poor old whoever that was, going the Spencer Piggott route there into the attenuator.
And now, is it going to mean that we start to see separation up front because Diaz, Lowendick, Campbell, and Evans are starting to run away? Now, what happened to Dan Zagers? Because he's in pit lane. Oh, goodness.
Oh, and I think Dalton Zavadil may have been involved with him as well. Those were 2 of the big runners we were looking for. I think they may have also had a run-in with the attenuator.
Well, Indy bites, and they often say, right, Indy will pick its winner, and I think, honestly, we are kind of seeing that now. Here's a look at the replay. So this is what happened initially again. That red car, does it keep it out of the wall? I think it did.
Nope.
No.
Well, he keeps it out of the outside wall. Not quite the attenuator, though. But yeah, that suddenly made Sean Campbell's life very, very easy here. Dalton Zavadil is deep in the order. He's not even in the top 16. Karl Modoff is deep in the order. He's not even in the top 16. Here's what happened to Daniel Zegers, though. That wasn't even into the corner. That was before the corner where he came together.
We are just seeing drivers just not really, I think, understanding the way that with fuel saving, you're meant to be checking up and doing it in the correct way. Indy, oval racing in these cars, no matter where you're going, it's about lifting off early and then trying to slingshot that momentum. Zagers had already started to lift off, and he just gets driven through by the red machine behind. And I'm not sure which GT3 car that is, but heavens, I hope they weren't in VR there.
I think that might have been Dalton Zavadil, and he turned into a plane.
Yeah, well, you know how they say that race cars are inverted planes? That was an inverted race car, so it makes sense.
Precisely. Sean's not having the best day right now. He's actually been shuffled back to 7th, probably deliberately. He's definitely saving a little bit of fuel. But I don't know if there's any mathematical way he can actually lose this. If he crashes, he could be in danger as he washes up a little bit in turn 3. But I think all of his competitors are pretty deep in the field. It's going to take some bad stuff for Sean Campbell to lose this.
I think what he's maybe thinking about as well is just preserving his tires a little bit, because there are some drivers being, let's say, aggressive in dirty air and whatnot, right? As our camera gets a very liberal dose of Vaseline applied to it as it worked through the corner. When you go up high, it helps you out a little bit, right? Because you arc the corner a little bit more, and in some ways it hurts the balance of the tire compared to running down low on fuel and tire split. But it works in a different way, and he's not forcing the issue right now. We've still got a long way to go. Does he think that some of these other drivers are burning up their tires and he'll be able to charge forward in the closing stages?
We do have to look at one driver, actually, to the inside of Chris Hudson right now. Graham Wildman finished on the podium in race 1. That's not that many points off of Campbell. If he wins and Campbell finishes potentially 5th, that could give Graham Wildman the All-Star Invitational. So there's definitely mathematical possibilities for this to happen. Lots of laps still to go, though, as we ride on board with Chris Hudson. He's used to super speedway racing just in a NASCAR Cup Series car. Now he's got to do it in a car with far less bodywork and far more checking up into turn 3, or a similar amount of checking up into turn 3, actually. But there goes Jeff Evans, and Jason Drescher as well gets to keep it pointed straight.
That's where Sean Campbell not dropping back too far was very important, right? Because if something happens in front of you at these speeds, you don't have time to react, right? 220 or so miles an hour, and so as Chinsky hits the front, started back in 6th position. We are officially going to hit 1/3 race distance this time by, and now down to just 9 cars at the front. Abner Acosta, Rob Campbell sit 10th and 11th. If they start to swap drafts quite effectively, they could close. The danger with that is they'll probably start to eat some fuel into their allotment, and they're going to be caught in two minds, Joey. Do they save the fuel? Do they try and close the gap and then save the fuel in the closing stages?
I think they just want to race. I think that's all these guys can really hope for. 20 laps to go, no safety cars, no cautions, no pit stops. I think it's just a battle for P10 now, and they can pretend like they're fighting for the win. Abner can just say, remove the 0 from my number, and we'll say this is for P1.
Yeah, but again, there is an art to swap drafting at Indy. There are some combos that just genuinely are tenths or 2/10 faster than any other combo. So, if they work together well, never say never. That's not an insurmountable gap for them to close back in, especially if they are saving some fuel up here. We're running 41.3s right now pretty consistently, which does indicate to me we're not pushing the tempo right now. Everyone's just content to ride. And look at Sean Campbell just going up high once again, getting some clean air onto the nose of his car. Joey, is this the official iRacing fix setup?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so yes, he wants that clean air on the nose of the car, I can tell you that.
You absolutely do. And also, unlike in real life, the snake not banned. So Joshua Chinsky can go as low down as he wants if he so desires.
Oh!
Chris Hudson a little bit too low, though. And what an incredible escape there. I think that was a lapped car, but that might have been Arnaud Genet sneaking through.
What do they tell you about the rejoin? First, let's just say that, sorry Graham Waldman fans, but you're reporting to Arnaud Genet post-race for a stern talking to. This is not race control actually involved here today, but just something to keep in mind as, does that front wing reattach itself magically?
Well, yeah, damage healing is on, so
That's
crashes do matter in that you lose time when you get pointed, 270 degrees in the wrong direction, but you do get to keep going, because I want everybody to finish this race. More Indy is always good.
It's just bizarre, isn't it, just watching it?
If only that was real. Imagine that.
No.
One day in the future.
No, Joey, we already know what driving standards are like in sim racing for the most part. Do you want them to carry over to the real world, really?
Well, I think you're actually just angry because that means you wouldn't get front wings anymore. They just reattach.
Does that actually mean that I get an infinite supply of them because now they're magically being teleported off the car in a brand new...
That's also possible.
You see, am I just gaming your system here?
You're doing business, Arjuna. You're 2 steps ahead of me.
I mean, I've thought of a very, very good business idea, by the way.
Dallara drop shipping?
Kind of. I just go to IndyCar and say, all those broken race car bits that no one actually needs anymore, just give them to me. I'll dispose of them for you. Dispose.
What do they do? How does carbon fiber recycling work?
It doesn't.
Do they melt it down?
I'm pretty sure they just throw it away.
Well, that's got to be a lot of carbon fiber. There's got to be some way to reuse it. We can make...
You give it to me and put it on my wall. That's an interesting camera angle, which does indicate to me, Joey, that because these cameras came to us before the update, iRacing has slightly changed the car as they said they would to match some of the changes it went through in 2023.
I think that camera is just for fans of Midwest emo music because that was a car seat headrest.
I'm not rising to it.
There will be someone in the chat who gets that.
I'm not rising to it. Now, here we go, by the way. Business picking up because I think maybe we've saved enough fuel that Michael Diaz starting to look to the outside and forcing Chinsky under pressure. Where we talk tires, the more you get pinched down low, the more you're going to feel it at the end. Dialing in your weight jacker. Look at Sean Campbell up to the Christopher Demerit line.
Yeah, he's kind of dunking on people here. There's some drivers in this group who are inexperienced in this car who might be racing it in anger for the first time. Sean Campbell's done an iRacing Indianapolis 500 before. He has raced this car in many of these super speedways. He knows what he's doing, and that's a little bit scary seeing him just kind of going to school and looking for places to get by as there's still half of this race to go before the moves actually really matter.
He did drop behind Ted Lowen, but I think he's just trying to figure out where he wants to be. I mean, Diaz now alongside in through turn 3. I mean, he was there, could have forced the issue and pinched him a little bit more, the leader through the corner, but James O'Brien's really now the one that's got to decide because the further back in line you are, the worse the dirty air is. Second in line, you're pretty good. Third in line, you've got to decide when you take it aggressive, when you go 3 wide. He's not forcing it just yet, but when those drivers behind start to look up his inside, Joey, he'll have no choice but to go.
Also, Joshua Chinsky's been doing a lot of leading here. It's probably been about 10 laps since he took the lead, and he's not really lifting. He's going full aggressive. He's going full snake mode. He's defending. You have to imagine that he's using more fuel than anybody right now. Ted Lowendick's comfortable 4th in line, but is Chinsky going to be safe to make it to the end?
No, I don't think that there is any chance, really. Unless he was really running to a number at the start and using a fuel map. But given the way the times are starting to drop off now, I think we are starting to see the tires start to matter. And I don't see him having much luck to the end, and hopefully I'm wrong. You see those weather conditions. It's actually relatively cool as Sean Campbell uses that outside line to his advantage to get back up to 4th. Traditionally, when the iRacing Indy 500 has been run, we see track temperatures closer to 130 degrees Fahrenheit. So these are good conditions to go racing and no marbles to worry about after just a 30-lap affair.
It's almost like I controlled the weather in this one, too. It's almost like I played God to get the optimal track conditions. If only we could do this in real life. I would have made it not rain today. In the real world, that is. I would have absolutely made it rain here at Indy if I could.
Here we go. Campbell starting to make some moves and dropping back once again. So he's trying to figure out what he wants to do. I think he's 100% sure that Joshua Chinsky is definitely done on fuel, because if you're 5th in line with 10 laps to go, I don't think you can feel confident to get to the lead. If you're 4th in line, there's a better chance, but business picking up 2 by 2. They almost go into turn 3. Here comes Lowendick trying to pressure O'Brien for 3rd.
And the optimal scenario for basically everybody in this top 7 is if Sean Campbell crashes somewhere. Does somebody somehow get into Sean? Does he get shuffled out of line somehow? That's what these guys need, because Ted Lowendick and Graham Wildman out of these 7, and Jason Drescher as well with an outside chance, they can definitely still win the All-Star Invitational. They just need Sean to have a much worse day than he's having. If Sean Campbell finishes 7th and Ted Lowendick wins, they will be tied on points. If Sean Campbell finishes 7th and Graham Wildman wins the All-Star Invitational. Basically, all of that adds up to Campbell needs to crash or fall out of the top 7 if anybody else wants a chance. And I wonder, do they start to get maybe a little bit more aggressive in hopes that maybe potentially happens, knowing that they don't have damage enabled on the cars?
You leave margin at Indy, especially when you're side-by-side, knowing the speeds coming to the line as well. That's when you start to bring that margin down, and so that's where, you know, you talk about aggression, but you always are trying to make sure that you're giving as much room as is safe to do so in the closing stages. Safety goes out the door, and that's where you start to see the pinching. Now, because the conditions are cooler, that's actually going to make fuel mileage even harder because you spend a little bit more time at full throttle. So Joshua Chinsky, 28, 29 laps into this race, will peel down, and Michael Diaz probably inherits the race lead and gives us, 2 laps to try and fight for the lead for those behind?
Something like that. I also think that Joshua Chinsky he's got some good luck on his side. He may be from Indianapolis, he may be from Indiana, so it's his home race, but he's not Joshua Chin. He doesn't have the curse. He's Chinsky. So that can only mean good luck. It's like a reverse thing.
Joshua Chin is a very, very good fuel saver, but I think even he would be someone to say, I'm not saving fuel up front, I'm going to save fuel deep in the pack. Ooh, O'Brien almost got alongside there of Michael Diaz, who slammed the door shut just as they got up to turn 3. They're all now starting to make a little bit more aggressive moves. Look at O'Brien just off of turn 4, staying that little bit closer. And is he going to stay alongside of Diaz in towards the opening corner? Answer's no for the time being. Abner Acosta, Rob Campbell. What was I saying slightly earlier, Joey? They could close. They're within 2 seconds now of the leading group.
They're coming. Steve Loving could be a little bit of a ladder there, bridging the 2 gaps. But they've definitely still got work to do. Only 7 laps to go at the line. The Chinsky snake continues all the way down to the bottom, and it's not just Diaz attacking now. Look at Ted Lowendick to the inside of James O'Brien. Ted says, I've saved enough fuel, it's time to pounce. He finds the dirty air, though, on the curb on the inside of turn 3, and is forced to slot back in line. Tries to look for another way by, but now he's got Sean Campbell behind him with a run.
Outside line is very effective here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway if you know how to use it, how to take advantage of it, but at least for the time being, inside line at the lead seems to be where you want to be. How's that going to mean those behind decide to defend, because they're all just running in the dirty air, and behind Campbell, that was Drescher into the wall. Wildman takes advantage, but damage healing is going to mean back into line they'll tuck. They're going to get more aggressive with these jinks, and there's going to come a time where Chinsky's not allowed the line he wants to run in towards a corner, and that's when the trouble's going to brew.
Well, remember what happened, Arjuna, in May of last year in real life when there was a black car with white numbers and accents in second place that was trying to get aggressive? Could we see a Michael Diaz Pato Award joining of the spirits? I'm feeling it, potentially.
He's going to have to go for a move like that, that is for sure. But if Chinsky just holds on that outside line, gives a car and a half width on that inside momentum train, it might be enough. Marbles counterintuitively don't actually have as much of an impact here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, whether you're at 200 laps being complete or 30 laps being complete. And that's what gives the outside line its power. I don't know. Traffic probably not going to be a factor because there's just the one car they've got to pass, and that's the 31 of Patrick Cowgill. So it's anyone's game, and Sean Campbell still in 5th with 5 laps left to go.
If you want to talk about the differences in experience levels, you had guys like Chinsky and Lowendick and Campbell who have laps in this car. Patrick Cowgill had never driven an Indy car before starting practice for this the other day, and he was wondering as there's contact with the wall with James O'Brien, that's going to allow Ted Lowendick to get to his inside. That's a big spot for him. But Cowgill was surprised. There were no bumpers on these cars. If you hit the wall, you're basically done. So it's good for him that he's got a little bit of help with the damage healing now.
And watch as Michael Diaz tried to give some draft to Lowendick. It didn't work. Campbell passes, and watch the slingshot attempt out of 4 for Campbell to try and get up into a podium spot. Cowgill's going to actually help him out here in some ways because he might have hurt the momentum of O'Brien. Top 2 now slightly spread out for the first time in quite a while, but no move into turn 1 as Campbell once again rips it up high. He's not all the way to the wall, but he's there out of turn 1.
This is a dangerous game for Sean, though. He doesn't need to be racing this hard. He'll win the All-Star Invitational without that, but he still makes it happen around the outside in turn 2, and now he can look forward. He's been saving fuel for the last 27 laps, and now it's time to go. He's only got Michael Diaz and Joshua Chinsky ahead of him, and they might have something to say to each other if they don't come together before that.
He's been saving his tires, and he's also been understanding what he wants to do again. Pops himself out for some more clean air, and now with a tuck back underneath, he's not inside of Diaz just yet. I think he had to lift off of the throttle there just for a moment to avoid running into the back of that 17 machine. But look at behind. Lowendick could have forced the issue on O'Brien, but no contact made somehow.
This is so dangerous, though, and this is exactly what Ted and Graham want to see. They want to see Campbell in danger. They want to see him in the wall because that is their only hope of winning this. But coming into turn 3, 2 more times after this, Diaz can't make the outside work. Sean Campbell is absolutely making the outside work. Is he going to be able to make it happen, though? 2 laps to go at the line, and about 7 drivers still in contention here.
I mean, just look at that sight. This is about as feisty as you can hope for. And there's going to be splitting the middle. James O'Brien forces it through and takes the lead. Let's not forget, we think Chinsky is not going to be able to make it on fuel, but somehow he's still there with those 2 laps left to run.
Incredible move from James O'Brien through the middle. But the hits are going to keep on coming here. We might see a repeat into turn 3. Diaz is going to repay the favor. He gets to the inside of O'Brien. Chinsky's falling back. He might need to save some fuel. Campbell 5th in line. Lowendick on the outside. It looks like the pace lap right now is they're 2x2. Coming out of turn 4 for the penultimate time. 2.5 more miles to go before we get our first IndyCar winner at Indy in the PRL.
And I think James O'Brien might just have this, because if he can feed dirty air to both 2nd and 3rd, they won't get a shot out of turn 4. Contact. Diaz holds on. Lowendick now with the golden shot to slingshot out of turn 2 and to try and make something happen.
Now, if Ted Lowendick wins this, he needs Campbell to get into trouble. Lowendick hits the wall on the back straight, though. That allows Sean to the inside. Into turn 3 for the final time. O'Brien on the bottom, Lowendick on the top, Campbell on the even higher top. The focus on the face of Mr. Ted Lowendick. He's going to be coming to this race as a fan in just a couple of months, but he's trying to get some glory here. He knocks off a piece of the front wing. It's going to come back. A photo finish to the line. Ted Lowendick wins at Indianapolis, but with Sean Campbell in 4th place as they tumble across the line. Sean Campbell is the 2nd PRL All-Star Invitational champion.
And that was all about side draft from Lowendick, because for a moment it looked as though he didn't get the exit off the corner. Then it slowed down those inside lines. He got the margin 0.08 of a second, but Sean Campbell stayed out of the danger somehow. And I mean, was there a doubt for someone so adaptable, so strong across so many different cars? For Sean Campbell, hopefully returning, it sounds like, in the future to the PRL ranks, our PRL All-Star for 2024 Season 1.
And a valiant effort for Ted Lowendick. A couple more spots in the GR86 race. A little bit more bad luck for Sean Campbell could have meant Ted was the All-Star Invitational champion. But he'll still take some glory with him. A win at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He's going to be hoping potentially for a PRL IndyCar series before too long. Who knows if that's going to happen, but he'll get to ride on this glory for now. James O'Brien, excellent move into turn 1 for his own right. Finishes ahead of Michael Diaz by 1,000th of a second at the line, and Sean Campbell, it may be 4th place in this race, but 1st place in the GR86's 4th place in this race adds up to Sean being your PRL All-Star Invitational champion, following Kevin Sandiego as the winners of this. Joshua Chinsky in his home race did make it to the end, did a better job of fuel saving than we thought, still finished 5th though. Wildman will be 3rd in the point standings in the All-Star Invitational, ahead of Acosta, Drescher, Loving, and Jim Feliz, rounding out the top 10 at the end of it all. Chris Hudson, Jeff Evans, Bruno Mello, William Fenson, and Jose Acosta rounded out the lead lap finishers. Then Carl Modoff, Patrick Cowgill, Miguel Angel Fonseca, Marty Calvert, and Jake Maki all ran into assorted amounts of trouble. Ryan Latshaw was P21. He fell 1 lap down. Zavadil, Ostrich, and Adams were 2 laps down. Zavadil was really in contention before that massive crash. Rob Campbell ran into some big trouble. And then we get into the used car lot of cars that had heavy damage, got it repaired, but still finished. Genet, Sharp, defending champion Kevin Sandiego didn't quite go his way. He will not defend his All-Star Invitational title, but it was a valiant effort either way. Lou Christian and Jack Hedgecox round out the top 30. And the field of 33 was rounded out by Daniel Zeggers, a favorite coming into this, and Trent Dinkle and Stephen Kirby. Heavy hits on lap 1 for both of them, ended their days very, very early. But we've got a lot of drivers to talk to here, Arjuna. First, we'll kick it off with the winner of the race. We'll get to talk to Mr. Ted Lowendick, who's going to be feeling pretty good about that win in Indianapolis. Ted, we'll kick it off with you. A win at Indianapolis, 3 wide of the line. I think it was like 0.08 of a second over O'Brien at the end. What's your heart rate right now?
Hang on, I got my watch. 135. So.
Now, I'm sure you know that with Sean winning the first race and you finishing 7th, it wasn't quite enough to win the All-Star Invitational altogether, but still, 2nd place, 2 good races from you. You got to be feeling pretty good about that coming into next season.
We survived the rain. We survived the chaos at Indy. That was a lot of fun. Oh my gosh. Michael and I were talking the whole time, like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then when James went to the inside down the back straight, I was like, I'm going high. And then I saw Sean trying to go somewhere. Oh man, that was a lot of fun.
Where are we seeing you in the PRL next season? You won your way into this event on an oval against all odds. Yep. What are you doing next season?
We'll be in GT4 on Mondays, 8:30. Be there, or be square. And then again on Wednesdays in the Grand National Series. So we'll have a good time.
Big stuff. Congrats
also, we won. So yeah.
Right. That's right. It's been so long since we've done this. I forgot this was a thing, but we might have to generate a new t-shirt here. Ted, you have the floor. That is beautiful. Have you ever seen such beauty, Arjuna? Look at that. He's rendered speechless. The Shui returns. the 4th one, I think, maybe in the PRL. 3rd or 4th. But congrats, Ted. I wish you good luck with your sickness tomorrow, and we'll see you once the season starts.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for putting this on, too.
Coming home with the win at Indy, but the driver who won this whole shebang, he may have finished 4th at Indy, but doesn't really matter. Sean, after 2 races, the total point affair means that you are the 2nd PRL All-Star Invitational champion. How good does that feel?
It feels good. It was fun. It was, the combinations were very fun. I haven't done IndyCar in a long time since, you know, but the wet race was very fun.
And aren't you happy that I got to be the weather god?
It's just a random rectangle break in the clouds at the perfect time.
Precisely.
How convenient.
Exactly. So we've been talking a little bit. I've been hearing maybe you're coming back to the PRL next season. What's it going to be? What series? Where are we going to see Mr. Sean Campbell next season?
I don't know. I was looking at Super Formula because need an excuse to drive that car because it is very fun. But I've only driven it once, unfortunately.
Well, the closest thing to this open wheel vehicle will be that Super Formula. So I hope we see you there. We'll see you add to your 23 or 24 PRL wins if I'm not mistaken. So I guess hopefully we'll see you then.
All right, hopefully.
Sean Campbell, your PRL All-Star Invitational champion of 2024 Season 1/2023 Season 3. He'll be coming into maybe Super Formula this season. We'll get to talk to maybe one more driver, maybe 1 or 2 more drivers. The drivers who came up just short at the line. James O'Brien, 2nd place at Indy. but maybe the most exciting move of anybody. 3 wide in the middle into turn 1.
I had to go for it. It was there. They left the door open. If it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it didn't.
So are we going to see you in your usual places this season in the Cup Series and on the ovals?
I hope so. That race was a lot of fun, though. I've never actually drove that car. I had to buy it just for this race, so I was kind of learning as I went, and when I smacked the wall, I was like, oh, I'm done. And then I realized damage healing was on, so that was good. But I'm glad it was a really close finish. That looked pretty freaking awesome. I'm going to watch that back. But yeah, hopefully more of the same in Season 2 for NASCAR Cup.
Indeed. Good to have you back here, James, and we'll see you then.
Thank you.
James O'Brien coming home second at Indy, coming home somewhere in the grand points total, but still, good day for him. Both All-Star Invitationals have gone pretty well for him. Michael Diaz, an All-Star of the PRL. He's won who knows how many races and how many classes, and you almost got a win in an IndyCar here.
Dude, I forgot to downshift.
No. But what were you feeling at the line? Were you leaning forward in your chair, trying to get as much speed as possible?
Bro, I was under the car basically. Just that was amazing. That was amazing. That was so much fun. Like, it's probably the most fun I had in iRacing in a while.
So what are we seeing you in next season? You've literally done everything there is in the PRL. What's your choice this time?
Doing GTP again. I was looking at the trucks, but the schedule didn't look too much. I had to buy too many tracks. So for now, GTP. Joey, ever again, don't make me race Phoenix. I had no idea where I was going. Like,
it's underrated. I love Phoenix Road, but congrats on the run here, Michael. And I'm sure you'll be adding some win in the GTP. It won't be at Phoenix Road, unfortunately.
Fortunately, man, I had no idea where Team 1 was. But
Michael Diaz,
thanks, man.
Coming home in third. I'm not letting him slander Phoenix Road anymore because we got one more driver to talk to. Last but not least, make the chat happy. Graham Wildman, third place in the PRL All-Star Invitational. After winning your way in this time, it's a podium. You got to feel good about that.
Hey, it does feel pretty good. I'm glad I could bust my chops up against the big boys there and come out okay.
And I know you told me a couple weeks ago, I think, you're switching from the road side to the oval side. Is this a good omen that you did so well at Indy for your NASCAR adventures this season?
I hope so. I think I have less than 20 or 30 oval starts in all of iRacing, so I'm going to give the ovals a shot, see how it goes. Maybe I stick with it, maybe I don't.
Well, Graham, the chat is very happy that you did so well today, and they'll be very happy when we see you again in just 2 weeks or so.
Well, I appreciate it, guys, and I'm sorry whoever that was for the murder there.
Hey, there were a lot of murders. It's okay. Graham Wildman, third overall, and another successful PRL All-Star Invitational, Arjuna. Very wet Phoenix, and unlike what Michael Diaz says, that's a beautiful track. I'll always defend it. And at the end of it all, was almost a foregone conclusion. Mr. Sean Campbell comes home with the All-Star Invitational Championship.
And now we can look forward to another great PRL season kicking off in just a few weeks' time. And yeah, seeing who else comes out on top and establishes themselves as a winner in 2024 Season 2.
Signups are still open for Series Cup, LMP3, GT4, GTP, LMP2, GT3, Trucks, Grand National, Formula D, and Super Formula. A bunch of those still have signups up. So if you want to race in the PRL, if you want to join us in this event next time we do it, go sign up at precisionracingleague.com. But we're going to take a couple of weeks off until the regular season starts again. Until then, I've been Joey Tebben. Arjuna Kankapati has been Arjuna Kankapati. And until we see you next time, so long.